everyone, Fertility Journals here. If you're new, thank you so much for watching. I decided to start this YouTube channel after undergoing 12 cycles of IVF. When I became successful, I vowed that I would give back to this space the same way that it gave to me when I was undergoing my journey. If you are interested in those cycles, I do have each and every single one of those cycles documented in the information bar below and also in a playlist. I do warn you that those are raw videos. I just grabbed my camera and filmed myself through the process in the hope that it would give motivation and hope to somebody else. Every now and then, as you can see, I do get dressed up, I put a little bit of makeup on, and I hop on here to have a conversation with you, to journal my thoughts, particularly when behind the scenes I get asked questions about anything related to infertility. And so today I'm actually going to share with you some conversations I'm having, basic conversations of people going through IVF for the first time who want to know about the tests that are involved before you start IVF and as you are in the IVF process as well. And so if you are interested in that information, please go ahead and stay tuned. And don't forget to subscribe and join the family. Every now and then I'll put in a vlog. I'm busy, I got infants that I'm taking care of, so I don't do it live, but I do sometimes document our journey together and I hop on here to share that. But in between those videos, you will see journals like this where we can learn, normalize the IVF process, and be able to help each other by sharing our experiences. So what do these 4 fertility tests tell you when you're going through IVF? If you're going through IVF for the first time, you're obviously going through testing. And so I'll share with you what these tests actually share. And so the first test I will absolutely talk about is what we call the AMH test. The AMH test is for anti-malarial hormone. And this is a very, very important test. So what the AMH tells you is a little bit about how your ovaries are producing those eggs. So it's really nice because it gives you a number, and the number will actually determine the next conversation they're going to have with you. So with me, for example, my MH when I first started was a 0.14, and that was why my doctor recommended going straight to donor egg, because I had diminished reserve. I ended up actually also being a poor responder when we were doing IUIs and starting the process. And so they used that number to be able to assess how my ovaries were functioning. Now here's what a lot of people don't know, and what I was not told, is that your AMH level, your body producing these, the eggs that they have left, because it's always the eggs that you have left, right? You don't produce new eggs. Sometimes it fluctuates. So in some times of your life, it will actually fluctuate and maybe produce more eggs. And there was actually a time when they did my AMH. It was actually about a year later, after going to the reproductive endocrinologist for the first time. I waited a year and went back, and my AMH had actually improved a little bit, which was why they were willing to try just 1 cycle at that point. And so it does fluctuate as well. But it is a really important test. I'm glad that you've had it, and the number will be able to give you information about how to proceed forward. The second test that they actually will test for you when you're starting off your IVF is the follicle stimulating hormone. FSH is an absolutely very, very critical and important test. So it is what stimulates the follicles that you have. And so the science of it, I believe, is this. I'm not a medical professional, but just to give you the basic understanding so you know. If it is a high number, that means that your body is working hard. It is working really, really hard to be able to get your eggs to grow. And so that's why when it's really, really high, they really don't want to give you and shouldn't give you medication. At least that's what I learned from my doctor, 4 doctors later. And so that's why I had to do minimal drugs, because already my body's in overdrive and it has this high number, and then you don't want to pump more in there because it may damage what you have left. But I digress, but that's a little bit more conversations to have with your doctor, of course. But whenever it's a very, very, very high FSH, that is also, communicating. Your body's communicating that, it's taking a lot of work to produce the eggs that you have. And it's also an indicator that the quality may not be that good either. And so that number can tell you a lot. Just for reference purposes, my FSH was actually a 23 at the time. So it was in the higher range as well, because obviously, I had age-related infertility. So that's how I was able to actually measure the age-related infertility and the fact that I had diminished reserve. So with the AMH, it was diminished reserve. With the FSH is when I knew that I had age-related infertility at that point, in the sense that, hormones were going overdrive to mature the eggs that I had. The third fertility test is the ultrasound that I will talk about. Actually, I should have probably talked about the ultrasound first, because the ultrasound is absolutely critical and something that you can even do in your OB's office if you're just curious about your fertility. Now with the ultrasound, they go in there, they literally count every follicle you have. And so, man, I remember the days I used to have 10. There was days I used to have 10 follicles, y'all, 8 follicles. I wish I met Dr. Yillian. If I had met Dr. Yillian, I'd probably have the 5 children that I wanted to have. Yeah, I promise you, I used to have eggs. When I was in my late 30s, early. If I had just done IVF then, mini IVF, at that age of 39, I would have had my 2, 3 children, 4, even 5. Because I used to have 8 eggs a month. Now one every other. My goodness. I'm 45 years old and 8 months, so it's understandable. It diminishes over the years. But anyway, I digress again. The underfollicle count will help you see, and this is where you know. So regardless of age, if you have less follicles, then it is important for you to think about getting into fertility treatment, because it may be harder for you to fall pregnant naturally. And if you are older, you're then also fighting with the quality of the eggs. So that's why our IVF cycles sometimes take longer when you're older, even though you do have some of those eggs and have a doctor who can actually do mini IVF, because you're also fighting with the quality of those eggs. But it does give you a number. And at the first time I did it, again, I had 10, and then it really reduced significantly in the years after, where I was averaging, when I was doing IUIs, I was averaging 3 eggs a month, sometimes 4, and then not all the follicles would have eggs, but 3 or 4 give and take. And that's about the time that I had Bubba. I was also averaging probably 2, 3 eggs. And then right now, obviously, it's probably 1 every other month, I believe. And so the underfollicle count is really important to be able to kind of help you see where you are. The other test that they will have you do is the HSG test. And this actually is an important test, because some people have infertility because of blocked tubes. So when they actually inject that liquid to make sure that the tubes are clear, it just allows them to be able to see that there's nothing that they're actually competing with, that your tubes are fine. And so it is important to get that test so that you can be able to assess and see what's going on there, and whether or not there's any blockage issues that need to be dealt with. Other tests I'll talk about, obviously, most women know this. If you have a cyst or you have fibroids or polyps, those are important to actually get out of the way as well, because they impact your fertility also. All right, guys, and so those are probably what you expect to get tested for as you gauge your fertility level, and then they'll be able to give you a treatment plan, based on that. So for me, for example, just in a nutshell, the AMH dictated that I had diminished reserve. The FSH was pretty high, which dictated that I had age-related infertility, and that the quality of my eggs was also not good. And so, that was also something I had to think about. And this is why they were kind of thinking about the donor egg from a younger woman to actually use it, because again, I didn't think of it at the time, but the reason they tell you to do donor is because they want you to be successful probably on the first try. But I always say this, there's some of us who are willing to try. Like for me, my willingness to try was I went through 12 IVF cycles, and I did get my Baba, and my soul is complete. My soul is complete. So you know, that's the only argument I had, is that there was no doctor willing to give me a chance because of what it would take, until I found the doctor that was able to give me a chance, and I was then able to have my beautiful baby boy. And so that's a little bit about that fertility testing. So should you have fertility testing if you're watching this? You're younger, probably you're just kind of curious, you know, you've heard about IVF and you've just hopped on and seen this video. I think you should definitely get fertility testing anyway, even if you're not diagnosed with infertility, because it is power. Doing these tests empowers you to understand what is happening in your body and what you can do. I think it is absolutely mandatory and critical for you to at least understand where you are, and then you can move on to the next steps to determine what is right for you. You know, I talk about this with a lot of YouTubers that I talk to personally, but also friends. I'm doing these videos and documenting this journey, not only for the generation that is here, but for future generations. There are high school girls out there right now who do not know about this because they're not mentally at the space of getting a child. They want to pursue a career. They want to go to college. They want to pursue their careers for a few years. They want to meet the right guy. They're not willing to settle and then have children. And they're going to be hopping on to watch these videos in the next 5 to 10 years because they're wondering, why can I not have children? Not everybody is having children in their 20s anymore, which is the prime age. Prime age is 15 to 23. That is the window, meaning that's where you're probably not going to get issues with any egg. After that age, there's bound to be 1 there, 2 there, bound to be aneuploidy. And so that's history now. We're a new generation of women and men, and we are pursuing our careers. We're asking all our children to go to school first, to get an education, because they have no choice. Life is so expensive now. The high school diploma is not going to get you what you need. So people are setting having families aside, and they're building their families later. But then this is not the information that they're getting in their sex education classes. Nobody's telling them about fertility and how they should have it assessed, because I believe it is a choice. It should be given as a choice so that you can make the decision for yourself, particularly if you want your own biological children. Now, not everybody wants to have their own biological children. There's a lot of people out there who adopt and who are open to raising their nieces and nephews. That's different. But if there's a part of you or anyone in your family that you know would desire to just birth their own child, their own genetic heritage, their lineage, their own legacy, to at least have that in their family, then it is your responsibility, if you're watching this, to normalize this, because we are not making babies anymore in our 20s. We are not. And people are deliberately waiting until their 30s, late 30s, 40s, or waiting until the right person. Sometimes the right person may not come when you're 40. These people were still looking for the right person in their 50s. And so that's probably why I'm documenting in this space, like the millions of others who helped me before, because that's what I did. I stumbled onto videos that were made at a time, if I knew and I logged in, would have probably given me the 5 genetic children that I wanted, which I'm not going to have. But I do have my Baba, and I am blessed, and I am happy. My own genetic child, and I am so grateful. So that was a little bit of a rant, but hopefully that information was helpful for you. Thank you for watching. Until my next video, bye.